Hello everyone. A couple of weeks back, I said I was going to make a really big video about Warframe and the state of the game, and this is this video, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, for those who don't know, I'm Leonardo 3 and I've been playing Warframe since it came out on PS4. I loved the game, but I had my share of ups and downs with it, and also a bit of addiction and subsequent burnout. I'm making this video for a couple of reasons. First, the change of creative director from Steve to Rebecca. Now, Steve was the creative director for Warframe from its inception, but in late years, I felt that he was making the game for himself and not for the players. Also, he is more of a coder than an actual game designer. Rebecca is, or was, the community director. So she dealt with all the feedback from the game, from the players to the game, and I always felt that she always had the player best interest at heart. So now that she is the new creative director, I am interested in see in which direction she'll take the game and if she'll be able to balance her vision with the player's expectations. The second reason is the absolute avalanche of free-to-play titles coming out and how can Warframe stand ground against them. In the coming years, there'll be a ton of free-to-play titles available. Zenless Zone Zero, The Division Heartland, Project LLL, The First Descendant, Wayfinders, which I'm really looking forward to it, and even another game by Little Extremes, Soulframe. All this creates great expectations to see what will Warframe do to stand out, because for a long time Warframe was a big fish in a small pond. But, like Ancient Impact came to prove, the free-to-play PvE market is not a small side dish but a real place where games can thrive. So, I'm not about to introduce anything new, but mainly changes and a few ideas for Warframe in the future. Changes in the arsenal. Mods. There are way too many of them and only a few get used. Many of them need to be removed, and I think group mods, mods that that have a third ability or a third specific resource when you combine them, should be made more powerful and even more pervasive in the game. Arcanes. Same as mods, there's too many and many are irrelevant or underperform. Remove the unused ones, and more importantly, lower the stacks required from 20 back to 10, like it was in the beginning, because this was an absolute scam when they said they wouldn't allow us to double stack the same arcane, and then they said, oh, we're going to improve the stats to when you max it, but then we have to get the double amount of arcanes. This was a real sucker punch. This was a backhand to us, the players, and this should never have happened, and I hope that Rebecca reverses this. Focus schools. Now, focus schools play absolutely no part in this story, which is a shame, but that's something they will have to be working made further ahead. There are a few items now that we have to spend the millions of extra points that we get from the gathering focus, but most of them are just irrelevant. I would prefer some kind of ephemera that we could be displayed to the corresponding focus school that we are using, just so the teammates can see which one we are using and maybe play accordingly to that. Redesigning the codex. Now, this is really important, especially for new players, and since the game now has grown so much, has so much things to do. Now, missions should have small tutorials, just like the abilities have. The abilities have this little video that they show, so the tutorials for the missions should have also. Also, I fear that some missions are missing there, so they need to complete this. Mods also should indicate what are the required combinations and where you can find them, which enemy, which planet, and so and so and so. Now in the star chart, you need to reduce the nodes, remove invasions. I mean, the Fomorian Reservoir could still be seasonal events with proper mechanics and maybe even longer missions. You need to remove also the nightmare missions because all these variations are either redundant, especially the ones we have in the invasions where you can get the resources that already drop on the planet, and the nightmare missions. They could also be included in variants for the syndicate missions. What we get from invasions and nightmare missions is not pervasive and can just easily be put somewhere else. So I really don't think these nodes are essential to the game. And they should add Railjack nodes. Now, not the entire separate chart. There is no need for it because the rewards are all pretty much the same, and worse, not a lot of people play them. So you have a lot of nodes in the Star Shop, but they all do pretty much the same. So why have all of them? Why have a separate map for this? I don't think it's necessary. Now these nodes would connect to the void, and will be not a place, a void, but a series of places in the outer rim. So instead of so what my idea is, you have to have a railjack to get to the void, and instead of the void being like this conglomerate of planets on the side of the star shop, it could be all around the solar system, like the outer rim, and you would get to this using the railjack. So making it relevant to get there, I think that would work better. Also think that you should remove the outer nodes of the planets and remove it with steel path missions. Now, steel path missions like capture, spy, and others are way too similar to normal missions and do not need a whole new starship for it. True challenges are endless missions like we have in these nodes already. Since we already have an increase in drop rates and resources, so I think these nodes that are they actually, I think they're all just infested. They should change whatever it is, and they're all of them like level 30. So these are higher level missions, so you can just put spill path there, and the increase of drop chances and resources that we have in steel path could just be transferred here. They could even do something like change them cosmetically. I mean, the levels and the enemies could all be all black or some other color that stands them out, so that we know that these are actually dangerous enemies. And other steel path missions could appear maybe randomly, like the old nightmares were. Maybe just appear one node or another, because you have in Star Shot those 5 or 6 that are already in the menu. So maybe you could have those, and then have the ones on the outer nodes to have that. I don't think it's necessary, just like Railjack, I don't think it's necessary to have a whole map or to have to change the entire map to do this. To do the map again. I think it's a waste of time and a waste of space. And again, you don't get a lot of people playing in the specific node that you are unless it's on the menu. So just put them on the menu, those, and now on the ones of the outer rim, they would condense the players to go to those specific ones. Maybe to level up weapons, maybe to gather resources. I think that would work a lot better. Now, relays or hubs. We only really need one, maybe two if you add in Maru, but that's it. Maybe even have an event where you could build our new home, a crossplay event, and there we would build our quarters. You put this on the Zariman, we have this on our ship, but we do nothing there. It's just a space that's there in the Zariman and on the Drifters camp, and I don't think it's necessary. I'd rather much have my own quarters at a specific hub that everybody goes. There's this new tower or new relay that we have, or on my ship. Those two are more than enough. We don't need to spread out everything all over the place. Also in the relays, there should be a Laverian museum there, something that you can actually walk and see everything, all the Warframes and all the lore that you have gathered in the game, instead of going to the Codex, instead of going to that console. I imagine something like the Samaris Mastery Rank Trials, with this long corridor where you walk around and each door has a different Warframe, so you could go in and see what's there, and they can add all the Warframes that they want, because, like the Samaris is a spiral. Maybe this could be the same thing. So I think it would work a lot better. Now, concerning specific game modes, I really like Arbitration and Sanctuary Auras, but I think they are very similar since they rely on killing lots of aggro, so they should really be turned into just one thing. This would avoid metatizing Sanctuary with Saring or Volt, or AoE abilities or exploding weapons or anything like that. It should follow Arbitration, buffs to specific warframes and specific weapons. I really like that, because you have to be a master of each one of them. And also like the stress test in Sanctuary, but with the rotation in Sanctuary is like 2.30 minutes. I think it should be 5 minutes. You should follow the proper rotation that Survival has. Because I think it's easier for the players to understand what's supposed to do in that particular mode. After 10 minutes, the drones would appear, and after 15 minutes, then a boss would appear. So you have, after 15 minutes, you have between 15 and 20 minutes to kill the boss. So they will all come into the same space. This could have also two modes, normal and hard mode, where normal mode you had no drones, and on hard mode you would have the drones and the boss. Possibly there could be a third one where you have cooldowns. Maybe in between the no drones will be the easy one, and then the normal with cooldowns, and then the hard one with cooldowns and drones and everything. Or maybe the reverse, you have the drones in normal, and then in the hard you have the cooldowns. So, you're more dependent on your weapons and not just on your Warframe, and also it creates a level of challenge for the mode. Also, I don't like that a single syndicate has this endgame. Where all the others have nothing except Cephalon, which has the Hunhound battle. But other than that, I don't like this. I think that it puts a lot of relevance into one syndicate, so I would just remove it and put it in the Simaris. I'll put everything in the Simaris because Simaris is available for everybody, and that's it. Now, allow me here a little bit of a tangent, but allow me to talk about Railjack because it's a really complicated thing that was put in the game, and I have problems dealing with Railjack as is in the game. So we have one ship for several players, yet everyone builds the ship differently, and many have different things to do in the mission. Everyone has a little bit of a different objective on it. So this will require a major change to this game mode, per se. How to turn it like a bus. I mean, the Railjack is standard, and we build and improve our skills as crewmen on that ship. So you have better skills at driving, you would go to pilot the Railjack. If you better skills at gunman, you go to the gunman, and so on and so on. Or have one Railjack per player, which is like the vision that everybody thought would have. But of course, this is a lot more difficult to do, but also more enjoyable. This, however, would require major change to the mission design and to the objectives, because you have overpower with 4 Railjacks that will doing the same. And this, I think, I would prefer to do with the landing crafts. First of all, because they are already in the game, they each one has specific designs and all have one ability that they are specific to it. But you can just put it there on the Railjack tiles on space. Just put the landing craft on space. Give it a third-person view. Give each one a specific gun and missiles. These could be taken or swapped from the Railjack to here, and voila. I think I prefer to do that, since I'm already driving the landing craft when I'm going to a planet or going to a ship, so it'll be like the intermediate mission or intermediate battle, and I would get to do that. The other solution that is turn it into a bus with a predetermined path that you just, you board the Railjack and you shoot everything. I think there was an earlier story mission where you did this. So, the Railjack had like a specific path, and even in the New War, you get to fly the Railjack, and it's kind of boxed in the flight plan that you have to do. It's kind of boxed in, so maybe that will work better. This could be actually something good to have in the Fomorian or Reservac events, because right now you just get there, you kill the boss, and you come out in like 2 minutes. So this will be good to do, but ultimately it comes down to a basic thing, that is the removal of Railjack as is, and in its place, turn it into a mission mode and not a mission gear. Now, it's not something that you will build and craft and do all the things to it, but it's something that you would go to your Warframe, and then you would assist the Railjack in the mission. You would drive the Railjack into a mission. At least that's my vision. Now, other things. The operator use. I really hope to see more of him after the Viri. One old idea that I have, and many people have already saw it in the forums, was for them to be necessary in the Orokin Vaults or in some specific Orokin tile. Maybe, considering the vaults not only have a key, but have a small puzzle to do. I mean, like those you have in the Deimos Vaults, where, you have a sequence of elements that you have to activate, and then you can use the operator to correspond that sequence, and you can use the operator to get those. Also, these Eximus buffs that we get from the Hurricane Vaults, which actually have already four slots on them, so maybe it could appear a sequence and you just use the operator to shoot those things in that sequence to enter. That'll be just a simple thing, but I think it would be good. You could maybe do that. But also the mods that you find in the Orkan Vault, which are the Xmas mods, but I think that the golden ones that can only be get there should have a buff. I think there's one, for instance, that gives you like 15% more range, which I don't think it's a lot. I think it deserves more, like 30 or 50%, something like that. The Eidolons. Now, in the islands, we have 3 different Eidolons, which aren't really that different. Their silhouette is exactly the same, and only some colors help distinguish one from each other. If you have the sculptures of them in your ship, you look at them and you see pretty much they all look the same. I hope we have maybe introduce a Divirius snake there, maybe in the Tyrid Strait, or if you're just going to keep the 3 as they are, at least reskin them. I mean, make the last one look better or not so beat up as the one you faced before. So the Terrorist will remain the same. It's a janky Eidolon, as a tree for an arm or something like that. But the Hydralist, which is the final one, would look, absolutely new. All white and gold, like it was so brand new. It was so powerful that the Orkan didn't even activate it. So you have this change of the 3 versions of it. I would prefer that than looking at the same thing and doing the same mechanic in the 3 Eidolons. I would like them to be all different, to have different mechanics for each one. Maybe you would have to use the Arcwing in one of them. I would be a lot happier with that, and this is something that I've been requesting for a long time, and they haven't gotten around to it. Maybe after the Severe Paradox, because of that big snake. Maybe. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Also, since we're talking about big bosses, we also have the last Orb Mother in Fortuna, just sleeping there, just doing nothing. And by the way, I enjoy these fights with the Orb Mother a lot more than the Island. We can face each one at any time we want, and they all have different mechanics to fight them. Furthermore, one of them, the Explorer, even has in-game cinematics, which is really, really cool to see, and we have this also in the Archon Hunts. So I think they need to go back to the islands and make them more in with the times, because the game is now evolved and they need to improve on them. Maybe, just some kind of rework would be nice to them. Now, talking about the 2 more recent game modes, Veilbreaker. Now, Veilbreaker is right now the only, maybe challenging mission we have. Although it does get easier with repetition, but this is not Warframe, and I'm already did a video about this. I'm not gonna get a lot into it. But if anyone sees Veilbreaker, they might be mistaken to think that the Grineer are the heroes of the game, and they are not. I mean, I like the structure and the change of pace these missions have, but I also enjoy if the game provided a specific Warframe, or operator, or weapon, and the Veilbreaker, and I had to do a specific mission, completely nerfed, and I still had to do it. I would still enjoy the mission as is. I just don't think the Grineer and Carl, despite being a great NPC, is the guy that we should be playing with. Connecting with Veilbreaker, of course, came the Archon Hunts. Now, the Archon Hunts are still fidgety. On one hand, they have become like the endgame, I guess, because the enemies are super difficult. They're immune to a lot of abilities. There's a lot of sentience there. There's a massive aggro. But on the other, we cannot use our abilities as we like. I think that a compromise needs to be achieved here. One idea is cooldowns. Not nerfs per se, but have our abilities that do work, that are really powerful, have a timer so we don't spam and we have to strategize how to use them. We have to rely so much more on our weapons and our team composition to do so. I'm not sure how this would work, but I already mentioned cooldowns on something similar in Sanctuary Onslaught, so maybe they could start there and then be implemented here, or maybe the 2 be connected in some way. I don't know if they're already connected to Veilbreaker, but I think that to have a game where you feel overpowered and you move a lot and you shoot everything and you have this sense of drive, and then arriving there and just having to stop, sometimes just dead stop. You just have to dead stop fighting an Archon because he just puts up a barrier and he can't take any damage, and you have to go around finding enemies and trying to kill the enemies that are also invulnerable to our abilities. I mean, You might as well not use abilities and just use your weapons, or, you know, I don't like that the enemy has all this immunity and we have nothing to counter it. I mean, I did have an idea with Veilbreaker that I already shared in the forums. Maybe that could be better, maybe not.
Boreal is down.
Lastly, I gotta mention the great innovation that came with Varuna, where for the first time we have a backup system to mitigate the grind in the game. Something no one, not even the devs, can deny the game has way too much of. I really think this system needs to be expanded to the entire game. Every Warframe, every weapon, everything farmable can use this to be acquired. Now, my idea is not to have more variations of Thrax, but Aya, since this is a resource we already have in the game and is a backup to getting older primes.
The kicker
It would be
isn't
easy
that
for it to have
always
just
feels like
different
meeting
colors
an old
attributed
friend.
to different planets or
The
different
Prime
game modes. You
Vanguard,
mean
the
in Earth you
pride
get
of
Earth
Empire,
Aya, in Mars you get Mars
and
Aya,
the end of
Sanctuary
it.
Aya, and so on and so
Hell
on.
of a
And
thing.
then you would go again to Maru, not to Arcadian Yonta in the Zariman, but you go to a new NPC that would have everything on sale depending on your iron currency. Maybe it could be the Lotus, since she is, you know, center place of the entire game. Maybe not, but it's an idea. In closing, this is not the first time I've done a quest like this, but it will probably be my last, since I'm eager to try new free-to-play games, but I want to return to Warframe from time to time and feel that my time spent is rewarding, something that I have not felt in these past 2 years. My main objectives with all these changes would be to have a game more condensed and easy to fly through, since many don't even enter just because of the immense size and grind required. If we take into account the Steam charts, the game has lost half of its player base in 3 years. I think it went down from like 60,000 to 30,000. And these were pandemic years, where most of us just sat at home playing video games. The game is so big that we now have parts of it that are actually hard to find teammates to play with, for example Railjack or Steel Path. I'm not completely sure if crossplay wasn't sped up just to fill this gap. I think a smaller game, more help to gather elements, friendlier UI and tutorials, and I am sure players would return more often when in bigger numbers, because I see Warframe is like an amusement park. There's lots of rides for everyone, and when you have thousands of people coming in, it's easy to pack them all. But then you have just hundreds of people coming in, then it gets tricky to fill them all up, and some rides just get neglected or abandoned. So that said, I would prefer to lose a few rides than for the entire park just to shut down. This needs, however, to be a big shift. If only small steps are taken or small changes, this could pass unnoticed and to be too small to deliver the proper effects. I'm not a dev, and I'm sure some of this would require a lot of work, but if done properly, Warframe R, as I like to call it, can be a wonderful thing indeed. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Comment below what you think the game should have or shouldn't have, what could be added, what could be removed, what could be changed in the game, and I'll see you in the next video. Hope you have a wonderful new year, and I hope 2023 will be a great year for everyone. So my wish for 2023 is for all of you to have a great game, guys.